What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video. So I had just finished the third season. Yay! So I am coming off of the season 3 finale, which was phenomenal. And so I wanted to do a recap of the third season, just like I did after the second season. So I'm going to talk about basically the major themes of the season. We're going to go through talking about, the main three, Clark, Lex, and Lana, and then we're gonna go through favorite episodes, least favorite episodes, favorite character, least favorite character, and then a final grade for the season as a whole. So the third season was definitely the darkest one, definitely, of the first 3 seasons, but you can tell though that if I can talk right now, you can definitely tell that this was the first one that had an overarching thread and storyline. It was much more serialized than the first 2 seasons, which I really liked. Yes, they did have individual episodes, but they did have threads throughout the entire season. It actually started in the first episode. So we'll talk more in details as I go through the characters, but it was definitely a definitely darker, edgier season. It definitely dealt with a lot to do with the Luthers. And everything that was going on this season happened because of the Luthers, because of what Lex and Lionel were doing. It trickled down into everything else that was happening this season, and so that was really cool. And and it focused on the good father of Jonathan and his influence, and then the bad father of Lionel and his influence on Lex. And I understand that was the first 2 seasons as well, but it was definitely much more prominent this season, and it was at the forefront of everything. So we are going to talk about the individual characters. So first one is Clark. He starts off in Metropolis because he couldn't handle the guilt from what happened at the end of season 2. After hurting his mom and losing the baby, and he thinks everything's his fault. So he is running around Metropolis. He is living it up. All his inhibitions are down. He's stealing money. He's buying cars. He's partying it up. Basically doing what we all would do if we were in his situation, basically, and had his powers. But of course, we started off with Jonathan going to Jor-El and asking Jor-El to give him powers so that he can go and have the power to bring Clark back. Well, we find out that because of doing this, there's 2 consequences. One is that Jonathan starts having heart issues because his body couldn't take having Clark's powers even for just a little bit of time, and it really did a number on his heart. And the second is that he promised Jor-El that he would bring Clark back and give Clark to Jor-El. So that was set up at the very beginning, which was really cool, because that keeps going throughout the entire season, which was cool to see. That threads that started at the very beginning, they kept going through, and you could tell this was the first season where it actually was thought out. This whole season was planned out. I think it was the first time that we saw much more serialized than episodic, and I think that's one reason why it's a great season. So then Clark gets super hearing, which is awesome. So it's cool. So now we have every season he gets a new power. So now he has super hearing, which was fun to see. It was interesting that he went blind for it, but there was an okay episode, but it's cool. He has super hearing now, which could have been very convenient in the first 2 seasons, but he has it now, so yay for him. It's always fun to see when he gets a new power and the Kents help him figure out his new power and figure out how to control it. And of course, he always ends up in situations, in those episodes where he's going to need that power in order to take down the bad guy. We also get this idea that there is power in Clark's blood throughout the season as well, because we saw that Lionel was using it when he was trying to trying to cure his liver disease. So he was using basically Clark's blood in this serum with Adam and other people, which we'll get to more when we get more into Lana's storyline. But he was trying to just figure out how to cure himself. And he finds out that Clark's blood has a healing property to it. And even in the first episode, like, he steals, Morgan Edge hires Clark to steal his blood from Lionel. And Clark ends up realizing what is in the serum is his blood in Resurrection when he goes to the hospital to help his friend, because his friend's brother has the same serum that Adam has. And anyway, but he finds that out and he's like, shouldn't I come forward? Because if my blood can cure all these diseases, maybe I should come forward. But of course, Jonathan's like, no. Stay where you're at. You're fine. Like, you're going to save a lot more people, which is true. But there is a healing factor and a power in Clark's blood, which is, it makes sense. And it's a cool concept. I like it. But of course, one of the big things throughout this season is because of what happened in the first 2 episodes, Jonathan's health goes south. And so Clark definitely has a guilt factor throughout this entire season about being the reason that his father has heart issues and why his father has a heart attack and he has to get like a triple bypass and all these other things. So he's definitely realizing the consequences of his decisions, and that's a hard lesson for him to learn, but it's one that he's going to have to keep learning because his actions have consequences, and more than anybody else because of his abilities and everything that happens with that. And then, of course, at the end, unfortunately, his best friend Pete has to leave because he realizes that, Pete realizes that it's too dangerous for him to stay in this town because who knows what could happen with him knowing, and the weight of just knowing Clark's secret really weighed on him. And you could see just Clark's guilt, not only for his father, but guilt over what Pete has to go through now in terms of being, having this secret loom over him and not wanting to betray him, because you saw in Truth how he almost spilled the beans about Clark. And what if, another meteor freak comes and he can read minds, of what is Pete thinking? So he sees the weight of knowing his secret on Pete. And unfortunately, Pete leaves, so he's written off the show. And he's the most underutilized character anyway, but it's still sad to see your best friend and the one person outside of your parents that knows like, you're a superpowered alien leaves. That's kind of sad. I feel bad for Clark. And then, of course, because of this, he finally was able to let Lana go, which I was very happy to see that, throughout this season, they didn't do the whole will they, won't they as much anymore. The first half they did, sure. But after, Lana got hurt and shattered, they kind of had them kind of go their own way a little bit, to the point where not every single episode was them, in the loft, in his barn, being like, I want to be with you, but I can't because of the secret, and tell me the truth. Like, it's a rinse repeat that they had for about a season and a half. But I'm really glad that they kind of changed it and changed the dynamic. And because they were able to do that, Clark was able to let Lana go because he saw just the weight of knowing his secret, because he wanted to tell Lana at the end of the season to get her to stay. And as I said in the review for that episode, I hated that he wanted to tell her because he only wanted to tell her because she was leaving. He didn't want to tell her because he wanted her to know. He wanted to tell her just to keep her around, and that is the wrong motivation, especially when Lana was in a good place to leave. And I'll get into Lana's story here in a little bit, but I'm glad he decided to let her go, because at the end of the day, guess what? He is in the cave wall. Jarrell took him, and now he is butt-ass naked in the wall, and I have no idea where he is. So we'll see what Jarrell did to him, or what he does to him. So that was Clark. He's still the good guy that we all know and love. He's just learning the consequences of his decisions, and they do have ramifications. Now, the big thing throughout this entire season was Lex. And Lex's story is so good because at the beginning, all he wants is to get back into the company and get back, you know, to working for his dad again and to partner up with him, because he realizes that after his wife tries to murder him, that, you know, still has a lot to learn, and he's strong and he's able to survive that because of the lessons that Lionel has taught him. So, so he starts to get out of his slump, but he finds out the big secret that Lionel actually killed his parents to get insurance money so he can start his company. Well, Lionel finds out about this, and he ends up electrocuting his own son in order for him to lose his memory. What the hell? Father of the Year right there, am I right? And then, so the rest of the season, it's Lex trying to get his memory back so he can remember what his father had done. But in the process, he finds out, he remembers it, probably the best episode of the season, was that he did not kill his brother Julian, it was his mom, and he took the blame for Julian's death because he wanted to protect his mother, because he knew that because Lex was his only heir, Lionel wouldn't do anything to hurt Lex. But if he found out that it was his mom, you bet your ass he would have done something. He would have hurt her, killed her, put her in a insane asylum. I don't know. He would have done something. So it was a huge revelation that they had. And then just at the end of the day, he ended up, you know, because of going through all of this, he ended up teaming up with the FBI to take down his father once and for all, to figure out all of his secrets. And because of that, he ends up nailing his father, because Chloe gets a confession from Lionel that he killed his parents. So he is able to use that and blackmail his father, because he has been working with the FBI, in order to take down his father. And he gets his dad arrested, and his dad is now in jail. So we'll see how long that lasts, because let's face it, it's Lionel Luthor, and he has all this power and money, but he won the battle. We'll see if Lex will win the war. But it also circles around a lot of the experiments and everything that is going on in the mysteries throughout the season all come back to Lionel. And because of this liver disease, he's running all these tests on people who have the same liver disease to cure it so that he can live, because his diagnosis is terminal. So anything with Adam Knight, anything with Vince from the Resurrection episode, all of these people, he has been using these experiments to find a cure for himself. And so it's just interesting to see all the mysteries of this season really comes back to the Luthors and everything that Lex and Lionel are doing, and just everybody else is just in the middle of it. Like, Lex is trying to take down his father, and somehow Clark ends up in the middle of this shitstorm, and Lex is like, I'm trying to go after my father. I'm trying to do good here, and somehow it just blows up in his face. And that's what I love, is like Lex's motivations are good. His execution, maybe not so great, but at the end of the day, he wanted to do what was right, and somehow he ends up getting the short end of the stick and ends up getting in more trouble than what he thought was going to happen. Especially after Clark finds out that he has been working with the FBI, and so Clark thinks that he is actually the FBI is going after him, but he's not. But because Lex is working with the FBI, they get that connection to Clark, Lionel's connection to Clark. Everybody is like circling Clark and his secret, and with the caves and his powers and his blood and everything else. Like, it's all circling, and Lionel is so close to figuring all this out. He's so close, he just can't get there, but he does know there's a secret. So I thought that was really good about how close Lex and Lionel are to the truth, but they just can't quite get over the edge to find out the secret. So that was always very captivating. And of course, Lex, after Lex ends up getting his dad to the FBI and gets him in jail, he is poisoned. So I'm sure he's fine. Obviously, with, you know, knowing the future, he's got to be fine. But still, it's like, damn, Lionel, you know, poison your son, you electrocute your son, like, what the hell, man? And of course, our third character of the main three is Lana, and she ends up, like, at the beginning of the season, like, she tries to go after Clark because she's in love with Clark and wants to help him, and she keeps kind of hovering around, like, seeing if they can work it out and get back together. Of course, we know that's not going to happen. So after she tries to help out Clark when Lex is going through his mental breakdown and shattered, she gets hurt. So she just decides that it's too dangerous to be around Clark anymore and goes off on her own. And that's where she meets Adam Knight, who, of course, is Damien from Vampire Diaries. It's where I know him from. And she tries her best to help him out. They meet in physical therapy. But we find out that throughout this season that Adam actually is there by Lionel to spy on Lana and Clark to figure out his secret. So again, all of these storylines are connected to the Luthers. This is the Luther season. And at the end of the day, she realizes that, you know, her life has been so planned out for her, and she wants to figure out who she is. And I love this. I love the fact that she is able to get away from her feelings for Clark, get away from pining after him and wanting to be with him, be like, you know what? We need to stop doing this yo-yo that we're doing, and I need to find something for myself. I need to discover myself, and I need to go off. And I love this for a character. I hate the execution of it. Because when has she ever been interested in the arts? Ever. I don't understand. Like, maybe do something equestrian. Maybe do something, I don't know, something like that, where it goes back to things that she has shown interest in. She's shown no interest in the arts. I don't understand why they chose Paris and the arts. It's so random, so weird, but I guess I'll kind of go with it. But the main idea is that I really do love the fact that she is now going off on her own and discovering herself, getting out of Smallville, getting away from Clark, and living her own life. And I love that for a character, and I love that she decided to do this for herself, which was awesome. And we'll see what happens moving forward. So those are the big three. I guess I kind of talked about kind of the whole season as a whole, especially when I'm talking about Lex and the Luthers, because I feel like that was the main thread. Everything else was, you know, was pretty good, but for me, what I remember most was the Luthers with Lex and Lionel trying to cure his liver disease, and Lex trying to take his father down, and somehow Clark ends up in the middle of it. And that to me was the best part of this entire season. It was so good, and you got to see why Lex and Lionel have the relationship that they have, and you get to see you know, why they are the way that they are as people and their relationship, and it's such a stark contrast to Jonathan and Clark, because Jonathan is such a good, loving, caring father, and Lionel is just so devious and lying and manipulative. And it's just, when you pin those two together, it's great writing, it's great television, it's great acting, and just, that's to me what makes this show. So in terms of favorite character this season, it's still Lex. Like, I love Clark, I do, but I feel like that is cheap, and it's so simple to be like, yes, I love Clark. Of course I love Clark. But Lex is so complicated because he wants to do good. He has a good heart. He wants the truth, and he just goes about doing things, maybe not the morally right way, but he's doing it for the right reasons. It's just the execution is maybe not there. And then it's like the way he executes is like a morally gray area. And even then, just the results end up getting him caught in the middle of a shitstorm that he didn't even intend to. And that happened in season 1, it happened in season 2, and it happened in season 3. And that's what I think I love about his character, is the fact that he tries so hard not to be his father and wants to separate himself from his father. And yet somehow he ends up always in the middle of this shitstorm. And I love his character. He's so complex. He's so multifaceted. And I love him. I love Michael Rosenbaum as him. And without him, this show would not be nearly as good. In terms of least favorite, I feel like it's kind of cheap to say it was Pete because he's not really used that much. But when he is used, it's used in a way that's just kind of annoying. Like when Velocity, and even in like Truth, like he keeps talking about how, you know, he just feels inferior to Clark, and Clark has all these powers, and he's a nobody compared to his best friend, and who would pay any attention to him, and all these things. And it was just like, oh my God, Pete, like, he just has such an inferiority complex to Clark that did get annoying. Now, I'm sad to see him go, because I feel like Clark definitely needs a best friend, especially one who knows his secret. But at the end of the day, like, it just sucks, because I hated the fact that also Pete, like, was forcing Clark to use his powers to get him out of a situation that he put himself in. And despite the fact that Clark tried, I'm talking about Velocity, like, Clark tried to help him out and tried to be like, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. He did it anyway, and he ended up forcing Clark to use his powers to get him out in a way that Clark didn't want to, and basically, like, abusing his powers. And that sucks. Like, I do love the fact that he stayed true to Clark and he never betrayed him in the end, but he did betray his powers and he did betray his trust. And and the whole thing with him being inferior and everything else, I'm just like, you know what, like, he's the only one I can think of that I don't really like, to be honest, because everybody else I really like. So later on, this is going to be really difficult. I have a feeling that characters are going to be very difficult to figure out who I hate, because I really don't hate anybody. Like, I love everybody on this show. So I guess if I had to pick one this season, it's Pete. So, of course, it's the most underutilized character. And what are you going to do? In terms of favorite characters, or favorite episodes and least favorite episodes. So in terms of least favorite episodes, I'm going to say my third least favorite was Relic, the one where they went back in time when they found out that, like, Jor-El was actually here in, like, the 50s, and actually the Kents were picked. That was kind of cool, but honestly, I could have cared less about Jor-El and Lana's great aunt, whatever. Like, I was bored. I didn't care. I know a lot of people loved the episode, especially in comments, people were saying how much they loved it, and I didn't. Like, I thought it was really boring, and they romanticized adultery. I was like, what are we doing, guys? I thought it was weird. It's a weird setup with Jor-El giving him, like, this journal, this, like, where he had the memories and why it was weird. It was kind of messed up, and I wasn't a big fan of that episode. The second worst one, I think, was Slumber, was the one where Clark is, like, asleep, and this girl, like, keeps coming into his dreams. And I don't know, I thought it was, again, all of these ones that I think it's because they have very weak, freaks of the week. And on top of that, they don't have the Luthers to make the episode better. So those are that's the theme, I guess, of some of these episodes that I don't really like. I guess there was, like, the girl's uncle was keeping her under sedation so that he could have all of her money, and he was in control of her money. I don't know, it was this traveler cloaked being was in the dreams, and I don't know, I thought, again, it was, I know that they tried to, like, do something different, and I don't know, it just didn't work for me. And then, of course, my least favorite one was Magnetic, the one where the guy, you know, could influence Lana and make her, like, have feelings for her or whatever. And it was very uncomfortable. It reminded me of, like, a season 1 episode where for some reason another meteor freak of the week was obsessed with Lana for whatever reason. And then on top of that, like, it was almost like he almost like started to like try and like rape her or something. Like, even if she like consented, he was still influencing her. He still had this influence over her. So I'm like, no, that is rape. It was very uncomfortable. They almost pushed it too far, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like the villain. I thought he was basic. I didn't care. I thought Lana was annoying because she believed this new guy over Clark every single turn when Clark was only trying to help, and he's been trying to help for 3 seasons, and it got annoying, and you can tell I'm getting fired up now. But yeah, so Magnetic was probably my least favorite. I didn't like it. Like I said, there was like a season 1 episode that just didn't belong, and I didn't care. And then I hated the whole rape creep factor that was kind of in this episode. But we're going to go on to happier moments, because now we are talking about my 3 favorite episodes. Now, my 3rd favorite episode was Exile, which was this season premiere all the way back. I love that episode. I love seeing Bad Clark and Clark on Red K, but like, it just, the acting in it of everybody trying to, you know, get him to come back, his scene, I remember his scene with Chloe when Chloe was trying to bring him back, and he got like super scary, and like Tom did so well in that episode, and just seeing, you know, Clark on Red K and seeing the damage that he could do was just, so good. And you can just tell Tom had a blast doing Bad Boy Clark and doing something a little bit different. But what I also like about it is you don't realize it in the moment, but when you go back to the first 2 episodes, it sets up everything for this season as a whole. So I love the fact that they did that. It was a strong premiere. It was a great premiere, and it just set the tone and the base for this entire season. Number 2 was Shattered. This was Michael Rosenbaum's shining moment. He was so good. I will never stop praising Michael on not only his portrayal of Lex, but his portrayal of Lex in this particular episode, because this is the one where he is losing his mind, and like he's slowly, like you think maybe at first like, no, so, you know, that I don't know, something's going on, but then as the episode goes on, you start thinking like, maybe he is losing his mind, and he gets crazier and crazier and crazier. And like Lionel comes in, like saying that he's worried about his son, that he had a mental breakdown before, and that he'd been in a mental institution before. But at the end of the episode, we get Morgan Edge again, and this time Lex ends up shooting Morgan Edge. So Morgan Edge is dead, and he sees Clark, which is like a really cool image now, is like he stops the car, literally blocking it, and then pushes the car, and Lex sees all of it. And you're like, oh my God, he saw. But of course, he's going crazy, so no one's going to believe him. But you find out that it was actually Lionel who was poisoning him the whole time to make him appear to be crazy. And I'm like, what? This is like peak evil Lionel, and it was so good because it was so evil. And that's what I love about Lionel, is that he will go to any length to cover up his secret. And he did. And he basically got his son institutionalized and ended up in the next episode erasing his memory so he doesn't have to go to jail. I'm like, well, damn, man, that's crazy. So Shattered was a great episode. And then, of course, the number 1 was Memoria. I don't know. This was my only, I'm pretty sure, I have to go back. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think this was my only 10 for this season was Memoria. Between the acting and the revelations and the sadness of it, it was just, oh my goodness, it was good. Between like the revelations of, first you think that Lex killed his brother. Then at the end, it's actually revealed that it actually was his mom and Lex covered for his mom. You're like, whoa, oh my God. And then on top of that, Lana plays Clark to get him to the lab. So he trades Clark for Lex so that the doctor will stop these treatments on Lex, so that Lionel's secret will be safe. And then we get to see Laura and Jarrell, and we get to see baby Clark and them taking off. And one of the best scenes of the entire show was just Martha talking to Clark, which we don't get very much, and that's very sad to see. But like, she told him that Laura was his first word, and they can never figure out what it meant. And she's like, you know, a mother's love never dies. You're like, oh my God, I can't with this. Oh, so good. All the emotions, all the feels were everywhere. And that was one of the best episodes of the entire series so far. So that was my #1 episode of the season. As a whole, it was a very strong season. It was the best season of the first 3. I'm going to give it as a season as a whole, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. That was very strong. They had some clunkers in there. They underutilized Pete. And, you know, so it was, again, a very, very strong season finale. And because everybody is in a place of peril. Like, you have Clark, who's in the cave wall with Jarrell. You have Lana, who is in Paris. You have Lex, who was drinking his scotch, so now he's poisoned. You have Chloe, who got blown up, and Lionel is in jail. You're like, what is happening on this show? Which makes it great television. So that was my review of the 3rd season. Like I said, it was the Luther season, and I freaking loved it. I thought it was great. It was definitely dark. Of the 3 seasons, definitely the darkest one, but definitely by far my favorite. If you couldn't tell, I really love the Luthers and I really love the Kents. So when you get an entire season where the whole storylines are based on like the families, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. So yeah, that was my season 3 review, and I'm looking forward to taking a few days off, but then we are going to hop right into season 4. So I'll see you guys then.